Hi there. I always wanted one of these dual power supplies that have tracking mode because fairly often I need a symmetric plus and minus supply with ground in the middle. While it's fairly easy to wire two power supplies together to provide that, you then have the problem of adjusting voltage symmetrically and turning them on and off at the same time. So I was very happy to find this one, a TTI PL330QMD 2x32 volts 3 amp supply that does isolated, meaning two independent supplies, tracking, series up to 64 volts and parallel for up to 6 amps. Good stuff. The reason that it was reduced was that a sense binding post got broken off and the shortening links are missing on the left one, while the positive terminal on the right one has seen better days as well. Also, the knobs have accumulated a yellow tint. To be clear, these are just optics. The actual unit is working fine. A closer look of the terminals on the right one, which is the one controlling both when tracking and in parallel mode. My first idea was to unscrew the broken front plastic part and replace it with the one from the most left binding post for earth. But on these posts you can't remove them. But I may be able to completely swap the whole plus binding post, front and back end, with the rarely used one for earth. On the left side supply, the negative sense terminal is pretty much gone completely, and the previous owner has resolved with some creative wire loops to replace the shorting links. On this side, the earth terminal is also in good condition, so maybe it's possible to use that binding post for the mangled one. The inside view reveals that the earth terminals are reasonably easy, just a nut holding the binding post, but the other four binding posts for plus sense, minus and minus sense connect to a circuit board. The front plate can be unscrewed from the bottom plate, and once all connectors are unplugged and the PCB for the mode switches is removed too, the area with the binding posts is reasonably accessible. I decided to tackle the left side, or in this view lower side, first because the damage is more severe. There are 4 screws that connect the PCB to the binding post. That part is easy, but the PCB can't be lifted off to access the terminals because it is still connected to the output enable switch. That switch is of a type that can only be removed by pulling it out from the front, which is of course impossible. So there is no other option but to desolder the 6 pins of the switch from the PCB. Why did they make that so difficult? And they used so much solder, and the pins of the switch are bigger than what my soldering gun can handle. In the end, I used plenty of desoldering braid, which did the trick. I managed to get the PCB off to reveal the rear of the binding posts. Note that the earth terminal is actually using a metal back, so it's in direct contact with the metal of the front plate. The wire that connects it only provides the earth connection to the PCB for the other terminals. That PCB itself only holds some smallish capacitors and a diode for reverse polarity protection. If that one ever blows, I will have to do the same disassembly and desoldering job again. Anyway, now with access, I can unscrew the binding post for the earth terminal and what's left from the damaged sense terminal. Putting the earth binding post into the hole for the sense terminal and tightening it. Now, what to do with the place where the earth terminal was? Originally, I intended to simply use the mangled terminal, in other words, just swapping the two, but then I thought, having come that far, I better install a proper one. I considered a couple. On this one, I liked that the slimmer front end closely matches the shape of the other binding post, but the rear is different and uses a different way of securing it in the hole. In the end, I settled on the other one, which is made by Cliff Electronic Components, their TP1 series, rated 15 amps and has the type number CL1508. This whole part with a protruding nose has exactly the same dimensions as the ones used in the power supply. Only the front part is slightly wider, but I think it will still look okay. The next step is of course to reattach the PCB, connecting the binding posts, and then the 6 pins of the switch need to be resoldered and the flux residue cleaned away. I repeated the same operation on the upper section, so I'm not going over the procedure here again. Here's the left power supply after the swap. I'm much happier with the look, but I would still prefer proper shorting links. But the only ones I could find are these. $25 including shipping for 5? No thanks. Or these, although this doesn't say it, I believe Pomonas come in packs of 10, so 43 pounds for 10. I don't think so, but I may get some brass and make them myself, and maybe even try my hand at nickel plating them. When I do, I will put up a video, so watch this space and subscribe if you not have already. Anyway, here are the terminals of the right power supply. I'm happy with that. While all this was going on, I gave the knobs an extended bath in bleach, but this did not do much to the yellow tinge. There is a commercial product called Retro Bright to remove yellowing from plastic. It uses mainly hydrogen peroxide with some additional chemicals. Since I had a 3% hydrogen peroxide solution available, I used that instead without any other ingredients, and it seemed to have some effect. The commercial product works probably faster, but I think this is good enough for me. After this extended surgery, does the unit still work? It turns on okay. To see any voltage, the current limit has to be higher than 0. If the decimal points are blinking, it means the power supply is in constant current mode. Shortening the output to drive some current. Okay, works fine. And the same on the other side. No problem. Switching to parallel, and the controls for the left supply are now inactive. Instead, the right power supply can now drive nearly 6 amps. Switching to tracking, and voltage and output on-off of the left supply are now controlled by the right, but each power supply still controls its current limit individually. Okay, this concludes the restoration of this power supply. Since I had the single 2 amp version of this type for years, I'm quite familiar with its performance, so the dual 3 amp version feels right at home, and I actually quite like how it looks with the green earth terminals. If you like my videos, don't forget to like and subscribe and help growing this channel, and consider becoming a Patreon. The link's in the description. Thanks for watching.